Were you producing the show during the time that Mike left the airport and didn't go to Indiana for, I think it
Yeah,
was Indiana for
yeah,
the Knicks
I
Pacers
remember it
series?
well. So that was 2000. That was during the Knicks Pacers series in 2000. And so Mike was frustrated. He didn't love traveling to begin with.
Yeah.
And our flight to Indianapolis in the morning, we were going to do the show from Market Square or from it was the new arena at the time, Gainbridge. And the flight got canceled. So then they rerouted us and we're going to go on a plane and connect to DC. And Mike's just like, no, I'm not doing it. It's not first class. I'm not going. Turned around, went back to the radio station, which at LaGuardia, it's 15 minutes away. Chris was livid about it. He really wanted to go. And it didn't really escalate until the next day when Chris was really on Jeff Van Gundy for some of the decisions he made in the game that night. And Mike was a big Van Gundy fan. And that's where that kind of devolved into a nasty fight to the point where I absolutely thought the show was over that summer. There was no question that I thought the show was over that summer. And I was praying to God that it was not going to happen.
So that argument was back in the studio, though, right? Chris was not in Indiana.
Yeah, so that argument was really on the air. They didn't really have an argument about the flight, right? That's just what started it. That's kind of what lit the candle for Chris.
Yeah.
And so a few days later, they're just screaming at each other, and then they're going through a period. So that would have been the conference finals, I think. Maybe the semifinals. I don't remember specifically.
Yeah, I think 2000 it was the conference finals, and the Knicks lost that series.
Right. So
the year before 99 is when they went to the NBA finals.
Right. In the short season. So Chris and Mike, so at that point, it's late May, early June. They still have a few weeks before the spring ratings book ended. They never took days off in the fall or in the spring. Those were the two important books. So they were doing shows where they are just looking at the microphone, talking into the microphone, not looking at each other, not talking at all during the break, screaming match in Mark Chernoff's office, or even in I think it was Lee Davis was our GM at the time, in his office. Mike, I'm never working with Chris again. Chris, Mike, I just signed a contract. I'm not going anywhere. Good luck. And there was talk, not involving me, mind you, but there was certainly talk. I would later find out about, well, maybe we can, split them up and put them in different day parts. And how are we going to do that? Like, there was realistic talk that was going to happen. I remember going out to Mike's house that summer because he had gotten me some tickets for Springsteen, and he was still as hot as could be about it. Really had just grown tired of it. And the story goes, and this is 100% true, Mike's wife-to-be, Mike was getting married that summer. His wife-to-be, Rosemary, who's just as lovely as could be, invited Chris without telling Mike. And so Chris came to the wedding, later that summer out on Long Island, small affair, and they had a talk. And it wasn't anything deep at the wedding. It was just kind of a superficial chat for a few minutes, but it was really what mended the fences. So there's no question that Mike's wife, Rose, saved the show at that time. Absolutely true. No doubt.
How did you produce the show while they weren't talking?
Well, you just sat on the edge of your seat. Is this going to explode at any second? And, every morning, even when things were great, I would talk to them individually. Hey, what do you want to do guest-wise? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And many times they wouldn't agree on things. So when they weren't agreeing on what to do on the show, when they weren't talking, it was really bad.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of times I tried to force feed a couple of things to just get through some segments and make them, not make them connect, but just get them into a guest that might be able to, you know, provide some really, it was all still entertaining radio. I don't think you could really tell on the air that much at the time how bad it was. You could tell there was tension for sure. But you just tried to navigate through it. And when we got to the point where the spring book ended, which is late June at this point, like around June 20th, something like that, they would split up their vacations. It would be Mike 1 week, or Mike 2 weeks, Chris 2 weeks. So they would go summers without working together. Like that was nothing new at all. And the timing of it could not have been more important, because they needed the time apart from one another. So,
and then when was the wedding? Like how many months?
I feel like
was
the wedding
it
was late July or August. Yeah,
so it was like before the fall, probably before the.
Oh, absolutely! It was well before the fall. It was in the summertime in August sometime. Yeah, and I kind of remember, you know, Chris was sitting at the table with me, and they had the brief chat, and you know, I kind of said, "How was that?" And he's like, "Better than I thought," you know. And you know, Mike was very happy on that day, as he should be. You know, it's your wedding day; it's incredible. And it, just the fact that Roe did that without even so much as considering anything else. Like, no, we need to fix this. Like, that marriage is incredibly important, like this one is, but obviously not on the same level. But you know, she understood what they had, how special it was, and why it was not worth blowing up over what had happened. So she took matters into her own hands. And I mean, Roe is just fantastic, just great.